Welcome back. All right. We are roughly 2 weeks away from the start of the regular season. This is right around the time of year where I do my Stanley Cup prediction. So I wanted to look back at my Stanley Cup predictions from seasons previous, and I even wanted to look at the video I did, which was totally as a joke, and we'll take a look at my predictions from that. That was from 2020, so it's interesting how just as a joke looking ahead, it wasn't entirely wrong. And when you look at my picks, 2022 I picked Tampa because they had won back-to-back Stanley Cups, and I was like, I don't know that anybody can beat them. They got all the way to the final. 2023 I picked Colorado, the defending Stanley Cup champions. I was like, sure, they can repeat, and then they didn't. 2024 I picked New Jersey, went way off the board there, and New Jersey missed the playoffs as a result. Yeah, I'm taking credit. 2025 I picked Dallas. They lost in the conference final again. I was not the only one that took Dallas. Now what's interesting is I did a video in 2020 which was just as a joke. And the last Stanley Cup champion that I put on the board was the Aria Hotel in Las Vegas. So, Aria represent. It's my favorite hotel in Las Vegas. But my 2020 video actually got Vegas right in 2023. Actually picked Vegas for 2023. It also picked Vegas to win in 2024 and 2025. What's interesting is we're looking at Florida trying to win 3 in a row, and I had Florida winning the Cup in 2022 as a joke. So when I just jokingly, hey, here comes Stanley Cup champions. Remember, in 2020, Vegas hadn't won a round since 1996. So, yeah, I had no idea. I also, just for the sake of argument, I took the Winnipeg Jets to win the Stanley Cup in 2026 in that absolute joke of a video, which, like I said, it ended up with the Whalers, I think, win it in 2031. Like, it does end up going off the rails. But it did pick Pittsburgh to win the Stanley Cup in 2027 and then Columbus in 2028. So, as weird as it looked for me to put Florida as 2022 Stanley Cup champions, in 2020 they lost the play-in round against the Islanders. So, there was no indication that this was going to be Stanley Cup champion. At any rate, yeah, I got a couple right there, and I haven't had anything right here. So, when I'm seriously trying to pick, I don't do as well as when it's a joke. I don't know how I feel about that. Anyways, so I've got all 32 teams here, and so I'm gonna put these. Sometimes I do it in different orders. Sometimes I do it from 32 through 1 as to most likely. What we'll do is we'll just keep this where it's not yet, rebuilding, retooling, unlikely, maybe, so contenders, and then my pick over a team in the final. And I'll pick both the finalist and the Stanley Cup champions. So I'll go through each division. Obviously, San Jose is still in the rebuilding stage, so I don't think anybody's going to be mad about me putting them there. In terms of Stanley Cup, I'll put Anaheim under unlikely. I'm not going to put them under rebuilding. Calgary I'll put under unlikely because now Rasmus Anderson might stick around. I don't know. The Kings are under unlikely. They haven't won a round. They need to stop playing against the Oilers. I'm going to put the Oilers right here. I'm also going to fix the R in over right here because that's going to drive me nuts once I see that. It's like the spelling errors, and I've often said if there isn't an error on a board, then I didn't do it or you might need to call somebody. Vancouver, I'm putting them under unlikely. I'm not putting them under not yet or rebuilding or retooling. Vegas is a contending team. And Seattle, yeah, I'm going to put them under not yet. I don't feel like Seattle is close enough for me to put them under necessarily unlikely. Colorado, I'm going to count them as a contender, so we'll put them here. Minnesota hasn't won around since 2015. I can't put them as a contender. St. Louis, you know what? Yep, sure. Jim Montgomery, young team, sure. Utah's going to go under unlikely as well. Dallas, we'll count them as a contender. Winnipeg, we'll count them as a contender. Nashville, I'm going to put them under not yet, rebuilding. Chicago also goes under not yet, rebuilding. So are we all in agreement? I was going to say agreeance. Watched too much Chef Ramsay lately. I don't even know if agreeance is a word, but every time he says agreeance, I'm like, somebody's paying him money, so he'll say that word, so it becomes part of our everyday vocabulary. And here I am. So we'll go to the Eastern Conference. Washington will put them as could be. I don't know if I'll put them in a top tier contender position. These are the ones I'm going to try to whittle down to decide who I think is going to win over who in the Stanley Cup final. The Islanders, I qualify the Islanders as unlikely. Rangers, see, this is the thing. I believe the Rangers are going to bounce back this year. There are people who think they won't. And when the season hasn't started yet, it really is Schrodinger's cat. We're both right. But somebody's going to have to open up that box in early October, and we'll see how things go through April. But I'm debating about unlikely or could. You know what? They didn't make the playoffs last year. I'll put them as unlikely. New Jersey? Yeah, I'll put New Jersey under could be. Sure. Pittsburgh? Nope. Pittsburgh goes under not yet. / rebuilding / retooling. Columbus? I'll say Columbus unlikely. So Columbus I'm not putting at that top spot there. Carolina? Got to put them in this mix of teams here. Philadelphia? Not yet. The NHL logo probably shouldn't be on the board, so I'll move that one over to this board here, just because it's going to confuse me as it just did. Where I'm like, I don't know what to do with that. All right, Tampa. I'm going to put them in the top contenders, but I'm going to leave them under could be. So these would be the top, I think, the top contenders. Boston, I know that Boston sees themselves as potentially a playoff team. I don't think Boston's going to get there. Florida, obviously, Florida has to be in the contending spot. Montreal, I'm going to count them still as unlikely because they're still a very young team here and inexperienced. Detroit, I'm not putting them under rebuilding or retooling because it's been 85 years since they made the playoffs. Ottawa, you know what? The optimism in Ottawa, sure. I'll buy into it and I'll say could be for Ottawa. There you go, Sens fans. Toronto, I will do exactly the same. That Toronto, sure, could be. I'm not going to put them in that top contender spot. Buffalo, I want Buffalo in the playoffs. I do. I want the jokes to go away. So, that's 7 teams that I have to whittle down. So let's go ahead and we'll figure this out with these 7 teams. And which ones I'm going to eliminate here. See, there's part of me that thinks Vegas is a good pick. And I know Vegas is a popular pick. Colorado, I'm going to move Colorado to could be. I'm not going to put Colorado into that top spot. Avs fans just said thanks. So, Florida, Carolina. Is Florida going to go to the final for a 4th year in a row? Could that happen? It's really tough to go there 4 times in a row. It is very, very difficult to go to a look back over history. It has been a long time since the team went to 4 straight Stanley Cup finals. But they're the only Eastern team left other than Carolina. So is this Carolina's year then? Because if Carolina is going to be the pick from the Metro, and I think a lot of people would be fine for me to say that's the pick from the Metro. But if I'm going to say Toronto, Tampa, Florida, maybe none of them end up in the Stanley Cup final, does that mean Carolina gets into the final? It might be part of the thinking people have had when it comes to Stanley Cup picks. So I'm gonna put Florida here. I just can't see Winnipeg. Hellebuck's had back-to-back bad years and the playoffs. So the final, definitely Carolina's in the final. Carolina has to be in the final. And this is where when I did the standings video and I had Carolina and 4, there were a lot of Canes fans that were mad. Teams where they finish in the standings, it does not impact whether or not they win a Stanley Cup. Florida finished 3rd in their division this past season. So, regular season success doesn't necessarily add up in the postseason. Vegas, Edmonton, Dallas. Edmonton, 3 straight Stanley Cup finals is very difficult. I don't see it. And then if it's Vegas and Dallas has beaten Vegas. Oh, man. I don't know that I can take Dallas. I took Dallas last year. See, and I look at that as a hockey fan and I think, well, Vegas and Carolina, I mean, it could be. And then it's which one? I'm kind of thinking Vegas. I am kind of thinking Vegas. I had Vegas 3 times in the joke one. I got it right once. I have not picked Vegas as a Stanley Cup pick over the last 4 years. And they won one of those last 4 years. They do have Bruce Cassidy still as coach. They still have an excellent team. Carolina's a very good team as well. I feel like they might claw back a little bit in the regular season, which could benefit them in the postseason. This is a tough one. Do I take Like, either way, no matter who I pick, people are going to be like, well, that's the jinx right there. Like, if I thought I had powers, if I thought I had any powers at all, I would do things quite differently. I would gamble on sports all the time, knowing I'm going to lose every single time, but my teams are going to win if I thought I had that kind of level of power. But generally, when I have gambled in the past, I've generally lost. I do restrict it when we've gone to Las Vegas. I think the most we've gambled of our own money in any trip to Las Vegas was $20. I think that's the most we've gambled, and that's in like almost a week in Las Vegas. And sometimes it's been at the airport just before we leave Las Vegas where we gamble, because they still have the slot machines, right? So, Vegas or Carolina? Like, I have concerns with both teams, but that's the thing. I can come up with a reason why every team in the league can't win the Stanley Cup. I can come up with reasons why a team could win the Stanley Cup. For most. I mean, just the could-be list is long. I'm going to take Vegas. I am over Carolina in the final. That's where I'm going to go with it. I'm going to say Vegas over Carolina. Which means for people watching this, they'll be like, good, Vegas isn't going to win. We'll see. If it's the first one I get right, people aren't going to be all that happy about it. But it is interesting, too. Like, I did take Washington to win the Cup in 2017, and then they won it in 2018. And then if you believe that the President's Trophy ends up being a blessing after, then Winnipeg's a good pick. So, if I had to go with... All right, so that's the final. And then if I had to rank the rest, so if I had to rank, let's say 3 through 8. A three-peat, I'd give them a good chance. Colorado, I'd probably put at 4th. Dallas, I'd put at 5th. And because Dallas does find a way to stumble in the conference final, which Colorado, a little bit better luck with Colorado in conference finals. Nobody's got... I don't think Toronto has as much pressure without Marner as they had with Marner. I'll say the Oilers are still capable. And I'd say probably Winnipeg at 8. Although Tampa, New Jersey, Washington, any of them could prove me wrong. One of the things that's really frustrating is when we're in the preseason and when we're getting into the regular season, it really looks like there are so many teams that could win the Stanley Cup. And then when we get to the Stanley Cup playoffs, it's obvious that there are certain teams that are just above everybody else. And when we get to the Stanley Cup final, the last couple of years we've had Florida and Edmonton, and they've outclassed everybody they've played. Yes, series have been close along the way, but in the end they've emerged victorious, and it would be nice to see somebody unexpected win the Stanley Cup this year. So here's to hoping for 2 teams to reach the Stanley Cup final no one expects in April, and a Stanley Cup final that just knocks our socks off in June. So either way, Vegas is my pick for this year. So there you go, the Las Vegas Golden Knights. But do let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. And remember, the joke video picked Winnipeg to win in 2026. And it is the joke video that's been right more often than I have in my serious predictions. So we'll see how that goes. So that's Winnipeg in 2026, Pittsburgh in 2027, and Columbus in 2028. So we'll see what happens. But let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. As you can see, there's nothing scientific with this. And I could make the argument for a lot of teams. And I'll probably do a video where I try to make an argument for every single team in the NHL at some point soon. It's another one I like to do before the season gets started. But thank you guys so much for watching. Hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much. And if you consider the pick to be a jinx, all right. It really is just a matter of there are a lot of teams that could be, and it really is kind of just throwing a dart at the dartboard and seeing what comes up. And I'm not great at darts, so it's not like I could just 140, 140, and I win. If I could do that, I wouldn't be the hockey guy. I'd be over drinking beer in Ireland and throwing darts. Anyways, all right. Thank you guys so much for all your support. It's greatly appreciated. I will talk to you again soon.